Make sure to add this little character to your first aid kit. Whether you knit the two-sided happy face doll or turn yours into a cat, puppy, bear, or other animal, the Booboo Beanie will comfort your little ones when the cuts and scrapes and scratches of life show up. Administer first aid, then top it off with a personal cool compress. The beans keep the cool and the doll chases away the blues, so keep one in the freezer for each of your kids. And by the way, it makes a great baby shower gift too. So, the first thing we're going to do to make our little Booboo Beanie is bring 10 needles out to the left of 0 and then do an E-wrap on the needles. Now my tension is set to 3. I love this yarn, Sport Weight, and it's a little finer than Red Heart. If I was using Red Heart, I'd be on about a 3.5 or 4. So, I'm going to very carefully knit the first row. Now, on the second row, I'm going to bring them all back out to hold position. I'm going to add a little more weight to this edge, but I'm also going to take my yarn tail and weave it over and under the needles. And because what that's going to do is weave it in automatically. So one more row, and that's gone, because I won't need this end. Now, I will advise on this pattern to trim any woven in ends off. I'm going to bring this out one more time to help this carriage along and knit another row. Help it along one more time. Okay, it's looking pretty good now. I'm at row 4. I'm going to knit to row 20 because I'm going to give this little guy short legs. At this point, we are going to cut this yarn, and I'm just going to put a little clip on it just so it stays steady. And I'm going to bring these all out to hold position. I'm going to set my carriage to hold in both directions. And I'm going to bring out 10 needles to the right of 0. And once again, just starting off just the same way, I'm going to E-wrap those 10 stitches. Okay, thread up my machine. I'm going to still leave one weight on that side, but I am going to use my weights as if they were my cast-on comb, and I'm going to put weights on these 10. Now, I am going to put a clip on this just to hold it, so I don't have to, it's my extra hand. But remember, we're in hold now. So all these needles we don't want to hold, we only want the left ones, the left 10 to hold. Okay, so I brought them out. Now I'm bringing them back into upper work position, and I'm going to knit a row. Once again, I'm going to help it along a little bit by bringing that up. Now, find the end of your yarn down here that is on the same leg that you're working, and you're going to snug that up, and I'm going to go over and under as far as my yarn will take me to the end of the row. There we go. And come down in this one, and I'm going to put a clip back on it. You do not want to weave this one in, at least not yet, because if you had woven this one in, the top of the leg would be connected to the bottom of the leg of the other leg, which then you'd have to cut it apart, and you'd have 2 short ends. Now, we're going to bring these back into upper work position so that we're ready to knit, and we're going to knit another row. And I just lost my clip, but that's okay. The yarn's all woven in. I'm going to bring this back up again and bring it back one more time just to get us going. And this is our number 3. I'm going to continue until I have a total of 40 rows on my counter. And there we have our 40th row, which is really 20 on this leg and 20 on this leg. Now, we're ready to bring these back up into hold position. And this is so that we can weave in this end. And I'm going to knit 10 rows. And that's the little body. Whoa, what did I forget to do? Whoa, look at that. I forgot to put my levers back into knit position on both sides. So we'll try that again. I reset it, and I'm going to knit 10 rows. Beautiful. Isn't that nice? Now this one is woven in, so I'm going to trim that one too. I am going to move my weights up though, because I'm going to start working the little arms. In this time, I am going to, on the same side as the carriage, which is my right side, I'm going to pull up 10 more stitches. And taking my feeder yarn, I'm going to E-wrap those 10 stitches. On this end, I'm going to hang a weight to act sort of as a cast-on comb. I already have a weight over here. And what am I going to do? I am going to knit 1 row. Now I'm on row counter 50. So I'm going to knit 1 row, which brings us up to 51. I'm going to pull these guys out again, and a couple of the middle ones, just so that they knit off evenly on the next row. And I'm going to bring out 10 more needles on this side. Now I'm going to E-wrap from right to left. And how you do that is you just, as before, you bring the yarn under the needle and then over. But because we're on the left-hand side, it is a clockwise twist or wrap. So once I have all of those wrapped, I'm going to put another weight on this end, just to make sure they knit off. Okay, and I'm going to give it a couple extra stitches over here too. All right, this is my second row. And I'm going to help them along a little bit longer. Third row. 4, 11, and 12. So I now have 12 rows. I want the 16 stitches on each end to be taken off. So I'm going to pull all those, the 16 stitches, that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That leaves 8 in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. And then all the rest of these are brought so that the needles are all the way at the hole. What that does is it puts the stitch behind the latches. Now I'm going to carefully, with my garter bar blocker, push these back. Not enough to close them, but push those back and pull these forward. And all of them will come forward. Now what that does, let me drop my garter bar. That stabilizes the stitches. Now, what that does is the center ones, the center stitches, are still in the hooks of the needles. And the end 16 stitches on either side are, oops, I have some open already. This is where a plastic card cut off helps you open up your latches, because they are hard to see. And there we go. I think I got them all now. Okay. What you want to do is you want to center your garter bar as much as possible so that it's balanced. Okay? And you're going to pull all the stitches onto the garter bar. Now the ones in the center are still caught by the hooks. So the only ones that actually go on the garter bar are the ending 16 on either side. Okay? These wouldn't go because they're caught in the hooks. Now, I'm going to let that drop for just a second. Before I go on, I'm going to cut this yarn and put a clothespin on it. Now, I'm going to teach you a little silly little trick, and it happens to work. This is painter's tape, blue tape that you can get at the hardware store. And what I do is I just put it on my garter bar, lift. Now I can leave that one on for a second. Since I have two sections that I have to do, I can put this one on this side. And then I can lift my garter bar off the machine and carefully fold this over. Now, oddly enough, the blue tape keeps the stitches. Now, I'm going to take these weights off because it's just too much weight. The garter bar is adding additional weight. So I'm going to take the extra weight off because I'm really stressing these center stitches. Now, I can take this off and I can put all of the needles that are now empty. That one's got a stitch on it, okay? All these needles into non-working position. I'm making sure my carriage is set so I can knit each row. Now, I'm adding another strand of yarn. Now, these stitches have to go up against the bed, otherwise they won't knit off. And I'm going to hold this down here. I'm going to carefully knit these stitches. Okay, I knit them. Now, I'm going to take my tool, my eyelet tool, that has two prongs on one end and one prong on the other, and I'm going to increase. I'm going to increase by moving two needles. I'm picking up the end stitches off the last two needles on the left and moving them over one needle, and doing the same on the right hand side. And then I'm going to pull back on my work a little bit so that I can pick up the bump on an adjacent needle to each of those empty needles. Because you do want, it might not be the one to pick up here. These are tight already. And you want to make sure that you pick up a bump. And the reason is you don't want the beans to be able to escape once we fill it. So I now have 10 needles in working position. I'm going to knit one more row, and I'm going to repeat this until I have 20 stitches back all into work. All right, and this is our last row. Now we finished that. So now we're going to knit 18 rows until we get to 18. Now we're going to come over the top of the head and work down the other side with 18 more rows. We are going to have to decrease to get down to this little neck of 8 stitches. So on the next row, we're going to take our 2 transfer tool again, and this time it's really easy. You just pick up the outside 2 stitches and move them 1 stitch to the inside. And you can bring those out if you'd like, and do it on both sides. And we're going to do this for 6 rows. Take the stitches that were emptied, the needles that were emptied, and move them out of work. Then knit 1 row. Okay, we're down to 8 stitches. That's our last row. We should be back over here. If you aren't, just move 1 more row till you get to the right. Okay, now it's time to make our arms again. But we already have the stitches sitting here waiting for us. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our stitches and we're going to move all the ones in the center out, and then we're going to bring out all the stitches, the 16 stitches on each side, which brings us to 20 and 20. And we're going to peel off this tape and peel off the other tape. Can you see that? I just peel them off. And once you have your stitches ready, you want to pull this in. This is what's going to stabilize it. Pull those away so that you can drop your stopper plate. And now the needles can't move horizontally on you. So now it's really easy to line up your stitches. And yeah, we're all set. You tip it up a little bit and just pull all the stitches back on the needles. You can remove this, but now that I don't have a garter bar holding my work, I'm going to have to weight this down a little bit more again. We did 12 rows, so now we're going to do 12 more rows to complete the arms. So that's 1. Okay, so we've completed our arms. But on the side where the carriage is, we're going to remove our weight, and we are going to carefully pick up the stitches from the lower edge of the arm. And I'm kind of picking up 2 loops, the crossover loops on the E-wrap. You want to get a little bit of substance there, so that's what I'm picking for. You can pick up as much as you want. It doesn't matter because it's going to be buried in the seam. But I just, for the end 10 stitches, now do not pull them all the way out. Do not pull the stitches all the way into hold position when you do this. And I'll show you why in just a second. I've got my 10, but this is the first one of the other end of the body. I'm going to secure it onto that 11th needle. That's the 11th needle here. Okay, now that I have those all hung, now I'm bringing this needle out and at the same time wrapping it with the feeder yarn and pulling it through all the loops on the hook. Then I move this stitch over to the next stitch, pull it all the way out, wrap it, and bring it back. Pull it all the way out, wrap it, now this is my 10th needle that I've bound off. I'm going to take this loop off that 10th needle and I'm moving it to the 11th needle. I am pulling it all the way out, I'm wrapping it, and I'm knitting it off, but I'm not transferring it. So I have 9, all 10 needles, all 10 of the arm stitches are bound off, and it's a nice little bind off. We're going to knit one more row, which takes us to the left-hand side. So on this one, just like I did on the other side, I'm taking my weight off of the arm, and I'm picking up at least 2 loops of each of the stitches, because sometimes it's a little loose. But I'm grabbing some meat here and popping it on my needles. And you see how I'm getting a couple of different loops, and they're all going right onto the needle. And that's my 10th. I'm going to pick up one more and put it on the 11th. Okay? Sometimes it's the first loop of the first stitch going down the side, but it just helps to close it up. Now, with the yarn on the left, we're going to pull this out and wrap, knit off that stitch, and move that stitch to the adjacent needle. Pull it out, wrap it, knit it off, and bring out the needle and take the Now we're taking the stitch that we just made on that 10th needle and moving it to the 11th and knitting the 11th needle off, but not transferring the stitch from it. Make sure these are all out of work. And if you recall, we're going to knit 10 more rows for the little body. We're going to go one more because I want to be on this side. And now we're going to make our little legs. And by doing that, we're going to take the ones on the left and putting them into hold position, changing our levers on our carriage to hold, and then we're going to knit 20 more rows on these needles. I'm going to bring these 10 stitches out to hold position so that the stitches go behind the latches, and I'm going to just take them off on to this yarn tail. Just pop them off. Okay, now I'm going to take my needle out of that and move these back. Now, I do need to add more to this, so I can flip this back into knit direction, and I'm going to knit 20 more rows over here, but I'm going to knit one first, bring them out to hold, and then use this yarn tail and weave it in because I will not need it to finish. Okay, that's 2, that's 20. Cut my yarn tail, thread it up, I took the liberty of giving it a pressing, and I made sure that all the ends that I have woven in are already cut and trimmed off. So the first thing I'm going to do is, remember how we took off the stitches off the machine by just popping them and just pulling our yarn through? We're now going to go to the other side and just work a little bit along the edge, and I'm going to pick up each of the stitches along this edge also. I'm going to pull them up and join them. So we're just stitching around and around and around, catching all the end stitches and pulling it nice and tight. Just to close that up and to weave that end in all at the same time. Stitching through those edges along the opening of one of the arms. Okay, and once I'm all the way around, I can pull that up nice and neat. And do you see how nice and neat that is? So we're going to stitch a little bit more, just so it's secure. Now we're going to turn the whole thing inside out. So I'm going to just slip stitch through both thicknesses, pull up the loop, and complete a slip stitch. This is called crocheting it together. And we're going to come down this side of the head to this point here. Same way. Now we're going to match the parts where the little neck ends and fold this up. There's our little body there, our little body over here. He's pretty even. Okay, now leave a long yarn tail here. Now he's going to come and fit through this arm. So just turn him all the way. Here. I'm just bringing my end to this tip where the opening is because I'm going to use that later to close that hand or that paw. Okay, so now we're ready to stuff. Funnel. This is a piece, the roll from the inside of a toilet paper roll, and I shaped it so that it would fit right into his little arm. And so I'll insert that and I'll pour the beans in there. Once they're stuffed, then you can start doing the embroidery and make the little face on them. First thing you want to do is place the eyes. And so I'm going to pull through. Now I've knotted the end and I have a long strand, so I'm going to pull it through and I'm going to leave it around in the back. And I'm going to stitch right through that strand so it'll lock it into place too. And so here is my first eye that I'm marking the outline of here, and place the second eye. I always want to get it, oops, it's getting caught. And you cannot embroider the face until you have the beans, because the beans push out on the knitting and it gives it additional shape. So I'm just placing eyes first. So we could do a smiley face. Let's see what that would look like. The easiest way to embroider a curve is to lay out the piece of yarn. Don't pull it too tight, okay? And then stitch back under it or over it to keep the shape of the curve. That looks pretty good. So then I'm going to stitch over to this one. I'm going to come up, maybe a 1/4 of an inch further down the smile. But you got to keep holding the smile in place. Then you come over it and stitch back in. So that ties it down. Now we're going to reinforce that smile so that it's wider. And how we do that is we came up in the end. Now we're going to wrap our needle around the black that's threaded through here, and we're going to retrace our steps. Now see, that thickens that line of the smile. So underneath it, and then right under the cross stitch. A little child that has a little boo-boo might like a smiley face. And this color just says smiley face. And then we bring it back up again. When I've got a boo-boo, I'm feeling so sad. Then when Mommy fixes me up, I am feeling glad. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos. Happy machine knitting!